Hi, I'm George Ellis, and today I'm going to tell you about the Kanban project management board that you can use to create just-in-time prioritization. You're going to remove waste by sharpening prioritization, reducing multitasking, and increasing the focus on customers, whether they're internal customers or external customers. Your team's going to get more done, and they're going to be more satisfied doing it. And it's simple, so let's get started. So let's start by understanding what problem we're trying to solve. There's a lot of waste when a team does work for many consumers, the internal and external customers who ask the team for work product. Think of an IT or a testing lab having to satisfy many internal customers, most unaware of what others want. We'll focus here on complex tasks, those that take between a few days and a few weeks, something more than a simple 2 or 3 hour task, but less than a major project. There's never enough resources to do everything everyone wants. So when priorities are ambiguous, internal customers have to compete with each other, say by nagging or by getting angry or constantly complaining about the team doing the work. This consumes a lot of time and mind share and contributes no value to the organization. Also, it's demoralizing for the team doing the work because they can't satisfy people no matter how hard they try. We'll solve this but with a simple, clear, team-based prioritization technique. It's going to increase engagement and it's going to reduce ambiguity. And the way this works, we'll have an internal group of people that act as a sort of steering committee for the team to decide what needs to be done in the immediate future. And and from there, we'll have a 15 or 20-minute meeting once a week to prioritize for the people doing the work. So, and that way we remove the ambiguity and we have the team working together. So that's our Kanban board. That's the concept of it. So what's a Kanban board? Here's an example. It's a task list where tasks are categorized according to the maturity of completion. So there are two critical elements of a Kanban board. First, tasks start on the left in a backlog. They flow to the right. For example, when we move audit Canadian system from backlog to next up. Tasks always start on the left and flow through to the right. So that's the first element. Second, a Kanban must have limits on tasks in the middle categories to create what's called a pull system. For example, here, next up and in progress are limited to 3 tasks. A pull system uses upstream signals to control downstream flow. Let's use a pizza buffet to demonstrate this. The upstream signals are produced by monitoring how much of each type of pizza is left. The downstream flow is the production of the pizzas and the delivery to the buffet table. The upstream signal comes from a server who observes that a pizza is nearly gone. That person then sends a message to the kitchen to produce a pie. So that's the upstream signal. The kitchen staff prepares the pizza, and a few minutes later, it's delivered to the table. That's the downstream flow. Pull systems are simple. They apply resources just where they are needed, just when they are needed. So let's return back to our organization where we have a series of tasks that need to be done. A Kanban board operates a lot like that buffet. The left side of the Kanban holds the upstream signals, the information that cues our team on what to work on next in an unambiguous way. The right side is downstream flow, the tasks that are being worked on so that the team can deliver work product. Remember our second element about having limits on the middle number on the middle columns, in this case in next up and in progress. That's what creates our pull system. In this example, we'll limit the number of tasks the team can complete in a week. And we're going to say that's normally about 3 tasks. And so you see here, we've limited next up to 3. We'll also limit the number of tasks the team can take on at any one time. Here we're saying it's 2. And that's what helps us eliminate or reduce at least multitasking. Now, this is just an example, and there are many ways to limit next up and in progress that vary with the size of the team, the complexity of the tasks, the behavior of the customers, and the expectations of the organization. The key is that we have to limit the next up and in progress bands, or whatever it is we use there, because those can vary too. So let's look at an example of this at work. So this week, in this example, our IT team is running their first prioritization meeting using a Kanban board. So everything's blank. They're getting started by having representatives from each major group that the IT team services. So that might be a person or two from sales, 1 or 2 from finance, and from operations, and so on. So that's the group that's going to help us sort out what's most important for the team for that prioritization meeting. Now, ahead of our meeting, our IT leader knew what was coming, and so she wrote all the tasks on sticky notes ahead of the meeting and put them in backlog. Of course, I'm showing here a physical example with paper. We could do the exact same thing with PowerPoint or Excel or iObea software. There's lots of ways to do this same thing. Now, remember, the Kanban works best with tasks that are between a few days and a few weeks long, and they're not deeply interconnected. Okay, they may have some kind of loose connection, but generally they're independent, and we can take them, let's say, more or less in any order. 1-hour tasks are too small for this sort of attention, and a major project, there's just too many dependencies to be able to move the post-it notes one at a time. All right, so now we're set for our meeting. It starts with a quick review with our internal customers of the projects, 12 of them, that are in backlog. Now that group picks 3, and they're limited to 3. They can move to next up because we think that's about what will keep our team busy for a week. And after some discussion, those internal customers, or the representatives of all of our internal customers, that's what they act as, they pick 3. We want to run a security check on the EU, Middle East, and Africa. We want to install our compliance module for 7RRL, and we'll do an initial brochure design. So that's it for this week. The committee is done. There's no need to force rank or otherwise try to sift out the tasks that are in backlog. It's very unambiguous. If you're in backlog, we're not working on it, and there's no commitment to it. If you're in next up, that's what we're going to be working on. So the team knows what to do. And the other thing is that this makes it clear to our internal customers, those people with loud voices that are used to complaining or otherwise twisting arms or using friendships to get their work done sort of through back doors, well, that's not going to work anymore. This is the place where we decide what's going to get done. So this really cuts a lot of waste. Now, in the minutes after the prioritization meeting, the prioritization group leaves and our technical team is left, and they're going to figure out they've got to do these 3. How are they going to get started? Pretty simple. They just decide that, hey, we're going to start working first on the security check, and we think we can maybe a couple of us can go off and work on the compliance module. And now it's time to go get to work. So a few days later, let's say install compliance module is completed. So we can move that into done. And that opens a space to pull internal brochure into in progress. That's the pull system at work. Now a week later, we have our second prioritization meeting. Now the team has opened up all 3 slots in next up. So now our prioritization team can come and fill those 3 slots up again. And the idea is that each week we will empty next up and we'll fill it. Now in practice, we're probably going to put a few more things in next up than the team can do in a week, just in case they go a little faster than we thought, or maybe the prioritization meeting is delayed. So you might have next up be a little bit larger than that. It doesn't have to be limited exactly to 1 week's work. But in general, that's what we're striving for. This is the just-in-time prioritization. We put things in there just as much as we have to do, and we do no more work on it. So here now we're going to fill the backlog up. Now the backlog is not limited. We can have as many stickers in the backlog as we like. So each week there's going to be new things coming into the backlog. All right. So now at our second prioritization meeting, the committee selects 3 new tasks. 1, open a shared directory for Red House. 2, support 8K for Southeast Asia office. And 3, connect MRP to the China team products. Notice how support 8K in Southeast Asia came straight from the backlog into next up, and it passed tasks that have been sitting in backlog longer. That happens. It doesn't matter how long something's been in backlog. What matters is that each week, taking the information we have, we do the most important thing as we understand it today. So you see how the upstream signals are measured at the weekly prioritization meeting, and the downstream flow is created by the IT team during the week. The prioritization is just in time, elevating to next up those tasks that will keep the team working until the next meeting. There's no need to prioritize more because next week the information will change. When new tasks come into backlog, we'll make those decisions then. If you're designing a Kanban board, how do you select the categories? When we started with this example, we started with backlog, next up, in progress, and done. But you can see here that confirm wait has been added because what we learned was after we ran the Kanban board, hypothetically, for a few weeks, we noticed that we had a lot of tasks that were waiting for confirmation. They didn't really fit very well into in progress because they weren't really being actively worked on, but they weren't done. We've got to follow up to make sure that confirmation and approval is completed. So we added a confirm wait a column. Kanban is a continuous experiment for the team. When you use it each week, you're going to see more about what's working and what isn't, and then you're going to change it, and you're constantly improving how you're working. So my experience is the board will change in its structure in small ways or large, but almost every week that the team is using it. If you'd like to try Kanban, you should think about starting a personal Kanban for yourself and use it for a month or 2 before you try to use the method with the team. I took this advice from David Anderson and I never looked back. My first Kanban board was just a few blank sheets of paper taped to a wall behind my desk and a handful of sticky notes. But it taught me how the system worked, and it was invaluable when I got into confusing parts of meetings. Kanban boards can be used by any team of people managing a dynamic set of tasks that are largely independent. IT teams and labs are probably the most common examples, but they can be used anywhere. I use one for my personal tasks, like I just talked about, and my team and I use one for running our weekly staff meetings, and it's been invaluable. It's allowed people to show what's going on, and it brings everybody into the process rather than having the boss work through an agenda. Lean thinking for knowledge work is based on 3 principles, and Kanban does all 3. It simplifies with clear rules of prioritization and a single point of truth for what's in and what's out. It engages the team, eliminating ambiguity and behind-the-scenes pressure from dissatisfied internal customers. It creates contests our team can win. And it experiments. It demands we write down how we're going to prioritize, and then we adjust how we do things when we look at customer satisfaction. And we try to improve. This experimentation mindset is the foundation of learning. What are the results? It works. Important tasks get prioritized first. This cuts multitasking and frustration, and that increases efficiency and productivity, and it grows team capability, and accordingly, it raises job satisfaction. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you'd like to read more about the Kanban board and many other topics in lean thinking for knowledge work, please see Improve, the next generation of continuous improvement for knowledge work.